Welcome to a new episode of the Stick and Move podcast. I'm your host, Trey, here with my homeboy, Sam. And today we are breaking down a top five, throwing in Mike Tyson versus the 70s Kings. I just want to go right into it. Who is your number five, Sam, and why?
The number five position, like if it was Mike Tyson versus,
we're gonna rank. Yeah.
And Mike Tyson is number five.
Talk to me.
Because this is my opinion. Joe Frazier, the stamina, 15 rounds with the biggest, baddest dudes in boxing. Ali, fucking Foreman. I mean, Tyson, 12 rounds? Are you kidding me? No. Much less 15 rounds.
So for our fans, I apologize, I should have introduced this. Our four guys that we're throwing in there: Muhammad Ali, George Foreman, Joe Frazier, and Ken Norton. There's argument for Ernie Shavers. There's, argument for Larry Holmes because Larry Holmes came on a little bit later. But we're going Ken Norton. He had the trilogy with Muhammad Ali. So we're going to throw him in there. He's usually top four, top five greats of all time when it comes to the 70s. Yes. So I agree with you, by the way. I don't know about having Mike Tyson number five, but Joe Frazier, continue. I'll just let you go ahead. Go on. Go down the list.
Look. This is just my opinion.
Talk to me.
Muhammad Ali was just too smart.
Mm-hmm.
He had the endurance, he had the reach, he had the IQ over Mike Tyson. In my opinion, my opinion. George Foreman was he had the reach, he had the power. There was just no way I think Mike Tyson would have knocked out George Foreman, because if Mike Tyson, in my opinion, struggled with people like Francis Botha, or
True.
I'm not gonna say Bone Crusher Smith was just a pushover, or whatever. I mean, but just George Foreman was a monster, bro.
Yeah.
I just don't see it. This is my opinion. Right. If there was a challenge for Mike Tyson, it would have been Joe Frazier. Mm-hmm. But the reason I got Joe Frazier still edging it out or beating Mike Tyson is simply endurance. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I just don't think that Mike Tyson carried the power like what George Foreman did to Joe Frazier. Yeah. I just don't think Mike Tyson had that type of power like George Foreman.
Look, most people would say that it's crazy that we even throw in Tyson with these guys. But you and I, a few weeks ago, we did a Floyd versus the Four Kings from the 80s. Hey guys, Trey here. If you love today's controversial episode and you want to see our channel grow, please drop a like, subscribe, and also comment. Sam and I are always going back and forth with those commenters on our controversial topics and opinions, and we love it so much. So go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe, most importantly, so our channel can grow and we can give you guys the best content as possible. Sam and I were always uploading multiple videos a week, and we want to continue doing that, and we need your help. So go ahead and subscribe, guys. And most importantly, like I always say, don't forget to stick and move, baby.
Yeah.
And most of the comments that you and I saw and read were people like saying that Floyd would have no chance, or at the very least, they wouldn't be able to figure out Floyd Mayweather. And then we did another episode where we did our top three heavyweights of all time. And most of the comments I got on that were, where is Tyson? Where is Tyson? And then we did another episode, the most overrated boxers. And I personally had Tyson number one, and I got a lot of support on it. But at the same time, I got a lot of hate on it too. And I love all comments coming from everywhere, so keep them coming. But I think for the most part, having Tyson at number five is what a lot of people would say. There's a lot of respect, a lot of old heads that would always say that the newer guy, considering Tyson was only a few years later, um, cannot see them fighting with other boxers of that time. So I like your number 5, man. I like where you're going with that.
And it's a different era and different rules. You got to
Right.
understand that. So if we were to say, Joe Frazier versus Mike Tyson, 1990, then we have to think about it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? A 12-round fight, things change. But if we're throwing in Mike Tyson into the late 70s, early 80s, I think it's I think they were just a lot more, they were brutal. I mean, their endurance, 12, 15 rounds, be training to go 12, 15 rounds, I mean, is just unmatched, in my opinion.
Well, look, I'm going to go my number 5.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have Mike Tyson number 5. And the guy I have number 5 is actually Ken Norton.
Okay.
Now, look, I don't know. If you ask me, I think the heavyweight division should be broken up, into super heavyweight or some kind of nickname for that elevated, those guys that are 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", weigh 230, 240 versus the guy. I mean, Mike Tyson was a tank as well. Don't get me wrong, but he was what, 5'8", 5'9". But what I see when I see this fight with Ken Norton, look, Ken Norton struggled against guys with heavy hands. Ken Norton, by the way, had a heavy hand. He broke Muhammad Ali's jaw. He was the first fight that Muhammad Ali lost after Frazier many fights later, when Ali was getting on that winning streak again.
Mm-hmm.
And look, for me, Ken Norton, in my opinion, he lost to George Foreman. He struggled against those heavy hand guys. And I think that bully style that Mike Tyson has, going left and right with that crazy head movement, I think that fight would look a lot like when he fought, coincidentally, Razor Ruddock, where it went the distance and there's some controversy. But I think Muhammad Ali, with that insane uppercut, with those flying hooks that he does, would own a little bit of Ken Norton. I actually think he would have an easy time with Ken Norton, to be honest with you. I think Ken Norton was the guy that Mike Tyson feasted on before his soul got taken against Buster Douglas. So that's why I have Ken Norton my number 5. You have any thoughts on that?
No, I get it. I see it. Now that you explained it to me, I could see that happening. But it's hard. It's hard to try to put it in this conversation, because I mean, we got to see it happen, which is of course never going to happen. But a fantasy fight, right? But I get it. I respect it. You got Tyson over Ken Norton. Yeah. I respect that.
All right. So who is your number 4, my man?
Ken Norton.
Talk to me.
Yeah, Ken Norton. Why? Because one, I think that Joe Frazier's stamina and his style and getting under the hooks and all that is too much for Norton. And Muhammad Ali also had been Norton, and George Foreman. I mean, I just think those guys were just more brutal than Ken Norton was. And I think if Ken Norton had an edge on any of those 5 guys, it would probably be only Mike Tyson. Because of the stamina. You have to remember, Mike Tyson, he tried to knock you on the first 3 rounds.
Right.
And he's gone the distance. Yes, he has.
Yeah.
But Ken Norton, dude, he was trained to fight, 15 rounds.
So I'm seeing a theme in your picture. You're basing it more on endurance.
Yeah, it's endurance. When it comes to the heavyweight division, yes.
When you and I talked the Floyd versus the 4 Kings, you and I were consensus that Floyd definitely has the endurance for 15 rounds.
Yes.
I could see where you're going with Mike Tyson, but that's what he was. That's why I have Ken Norton above or number 5, because Mike Tyson, early on in his career, he wanted to get him in and out. We're talking about a prime Tyson, not the one after prison. Well, maybe the first 2 fights after
Yeah,
prison.
yeah, he was pretty
But
brutal. Yeah.
yeah, I'm okay with your number 4, Ken Norton being there. I just think for me, the reason why I have Ken Norton lower than Mike Tyson is because I think Ken Norton will fall to the fear. And I honestly think that the combinations that Mike Tyson has will break down Ken Norton to maybe not want to fight the fight he wants to fight and be forced to brawl. And there's probably, you can arguably say Mike Tyson is the greatest brawler of all time. So I'm cool with him being your number 5.
Yeah,
Now,
he's my number
I'm sorry, you're
4.
number 4. I'm sorry, you're number 4.
Yeah.
Now, my number 4, you're gonna hate me for this. I'm gonna get a lot of hate on it, and I'm down with it. So, is actually Smoking Joe Frazier, number 4.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Look, they match up in size. They're pretty much the same. Joe Frazier was Mike Tyson before Mike Tyson. But bro, I don't think Joe Frazier ever felt an uppercut or a hook like the one Mike Tyson gave. You and I did an episode on the Thriller in Manila, and I'm not underestimating Muhammad Ali's jab. His jab was gorgeous in terms of creating space and that love tap that he loved to put on. It was more violent than it looked. But he was wobbling early on, Joe Frazier, with those
Okay.
jabs. And I honestly think that Mike Tyson, and look, let's call it, this is a Styles fight. Joe Frazier will get right in there. He'll get in a phone booth with Mike Tyson. And I think that's what Mike Tyson wants. And I honestly think, in my opinion, the 70s version, if Mike Tyson was to go back into time, I think that would be one of those fights where it resembles the 3 rounds between Hearns and Hagler, where they're just throwing punches and bunches, fighting in a phone booth. And I honestly think that Mike Tyson's infamous uppercut would end Joe Frazier. So that's my thought on that.
Yeah. So who do you think? Now that you want to bring up Joe Frazier, okay. So who do you think Mike Tyson has fought that he's beaten that was better than Joe Frazier?
Listen, man, we're talking about a peak prime Mike Tyson before he goes to jail, before he gets his mouthpiece taken out, and he was trained by Customato. He had the soul and essence of Customato and Teddy Atlas, which I have a love-hate relationship with, for him, training him. Yes, you're right. He never fought anybody close to any of these guys, not even Ken Norton, in my opinion. But if you're going to put a guy who has been wobbled many times by a stiff jab versus a guy who's coming in with the flurry that Mike Tyson loved to do, it's going to be a clash of two rhinos, brother.
But
go ahead. Sorry.
Do you consider this fight a big fight?
If they were to fight each other?
Yeah. Did you consider this a big fight?
Yes, I do, of course.
So aren't you the one that said that Mike Tyson lost all his big fights?
He did lose, but look, he lost his big fights after Customato was gone.
Right? So who was his big fights before Customato?
Well, I mean, okay, you're getting me there. I respect that. But
just go ahead.
Look, Mike Tyson at one point, when he was with Customato, he was there mentally. He was there physically. He was a machine. You've seen his sparring videos, bro. Unlike anything we've ever seen. Frazier was the earlier version of him. Sonny Liston was the earlier version of Mike Tyson before Frazier. And look, all those guys, they did not fear going into the phone booth. And that's what Mike Tyson wants. I agree. Frazier would be the best boxer he would ever have faced. Any one of these guys would have been. And you're right. I have said he never fought anybody. He always lost his big fights, and he did. But this is one of those fights where I can see where Tyson just owns that style, and I think he would actually. It would be one of those fights that ends within 4 to 5 rounds. Somebody's going down.
Wow. So if
So that's
Mike
my thought.
Tyson and that fantasy world, if that fantasy world, you would have had Mike Tyson knocking out Joe Frazier.
Only because I have seen before Customato died, we never saw Mike Tyson get hurt. We had seen Frazier getting hurt with a lesser of a punch. You know, it's already
Dude,
established.
who did Joe Frazier get hurt with?
Dude, he fought Ali. He got hurt with him with
Dude,
the jab.
dude,
You know what I'm saying?
did you just hear what you just said?
I know what you're saying, bro. I know what you're saying.
Arguably the greatest boxer of all time.
The nickname. We just had an episode, the greatest nicknames of all time. Absolutely. He's called the greatest. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But
Who
even
else?
then, man,
George Foreman.
Look, Foreman knocked him down twice in two losses by a heavy-handed puncher, more based on the jab versus combinations and so on. So that's my number 4. I knew it was gonna be heated. I'm gonna give you the edge. I think you won that conversation, but we'll leave it up to our viewers, guys. Tell us, who do you think is crazier, Joe Frazier, Mike Tyson? You guys leave us in the comments. We'll respond. All right. So what is your number 3?
My number 3 is Joe Frazier.
So how do you think Frazier would do against Tyson?
Endurance. I think that.
But you think they're gonna last that long, throwing those kind of body shots at each other?
Dude, did you see how Muhammad Ali missed a lot of the shots against Frazier?
But that was part of the plan. We learned late year. Well, you know, everything's Monday morning quarterback, right? Yeah. But you know, it's already been established that Ali was trying to rope a dope. I mean, he was a lot of that fight. Yeah, he would pepper in, but he would spend those rounds just harnessing the blows from Frazier. And if he wasn't able to go down, I don't know. I think go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I think Joe Frazier would have outlasted Mike Tyson. I think Joe Frazier would have survived the first 3, 4, 5 rounds for Mike Tyson, and it's all endurance. I think the bobbing and the weaving that Joe Frazier did was, dude, all of Mike Tyson's opponents had stood right in front of him.
I agree.
Who has Mike Tyson fought that had great defense? Larry Holmes prime would have flatlined Mike Tyson. I just don't see it. I think Joe Frazier has the power. He has that hook. He has the endurance. He was just a different monster than Mike Tyson was. Mike Tyson was I'm going to get a hate for this one. Mike Tyson was the number 1 bum basher.
I had him number 1 most overrated for a reason, bro.
He's the number 1 bum basher. Right. You know what this would look like? Oh, Joe Frazier's shorter than Mike Tyson. Okay. This would have been a Tank Davis Pitbull Cruz type of fight in the heavyweight division.
All right.
And it was the endurance. You know what I'm saying? But Mike Tyson don't have Tank's endurance.
Yeah.
I got Joe Frazier. And
do you think, not to cut you off, do you think that this fight would have been the most exciting out of the other 4 because of styles?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I think it would have.
I'm okay with that.
It would have been the most competitive, I think.
Right. I think it would have looked like Hearns Hagler, where somebody breaks their hand and you know, it's just a different fight. I think they would have clashed right in it would have been one of those fights where they're fighting in the center of the ring the entire time.
Yeah. All right.
And we'll see who catches who. I just think that Mike Tyson's power, you're right, he is a bum basher 100%. I think his power would have wilted Frazier a lot earlier. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like Muhammad Ali's stiff jab. But anyways, all right, going to number 2.
Right.
All right, my number.
Yeah, you're number 3. You're number 3.
My number 3. Oh, bro. My number 3 is actually George Foreman.
Oh,
Look,
I don't even know. I don't even like the way this is going, but go for it.
George Foreman has already admitted that the one guy he never wanted to fight was Mike Tyson. Yeah, he took that hiatus from 77 to 87 when he lost to, what was it, Jimmy Young, if I'm not mistaken. After that second loss, he just called it quits. I don't know if he was wounded emotionally or he was just tired from boxing, wanted to take a break. I know he had this religious awakening at that time, around that time. Look, George Foreman, a physical specimen of a monster. Right. It is true. People were asking Muhammad Ali, do not fight this guy. Look what he did to Joe Frazier. But even he admitted that he wanted nothing to do with Mike Tyson. And when he made his comeback, he could have fought Mike Tyson. Yeah, he was older. He was in his late 30s, if I'm not mistaken, at the time. He could have done it, but he did not want to do it. And listen, you and I, we're going to do an episode on the top 3 greatest stare downs of all time. And for me, spoiler alert, he's probably on there. Okay. And that stare down he had with Joe Frazier, he even admits to himself that one of his strategy was to stare down the eyes of his opponent. And when he stared down Joe Frazier, he'll admit, even though it's probably his most epic stare down ever, that even though he looked hard, that he was shaking in his soul, that his knees were wobbling or shaking, whatever, I don't know. And he had a little bit of fear. And they say in sports it's okay to have a little bit of fear. But I think with Mike Tyson staring back at him like that, Mike Tyson also had an epic stare down. Agree or disagree? Do you agree with that or not?
Yeah, I agree with that. The stare down. Yeah.
The stare down. And we're going way on before that. I honestly think that Mike Tyson in that fight would come out in the middle of the fight. And I don't think George Foreman early on in his career had that intellect. He was just a straight brawler at the time. I think the height would have been a problem, but I think Mike Tyson could catch him. I think Mike Tyson, with that head bobbing movement that really only one other fighter at the time really had, which was Joe Frazier. I don't know. I just think Mike Tyson would catch George Foreman and fall. Once again, George Foreman fell down by Muhammad Ali's tiring him out, and by his jab, I think Mike Tyson would get him with those uppercuts, those hooks, and the fight would be a wrap. I actually think that fight would probably go 8 or 9 rounds, in my opinion. But I have George Foreman my number 2 or 3. Sorry.
Yeah. All right.
Go ahead.
All
Go
right.
ahead. Hit me. Go ahead. Hit me. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I got George Foreman as my number 2. And there's nobody that can beat George Foreman in that time than Muhammad Ali.
Okay.
I think that he would have did to Mike Tyson what he did to Joe Frazier. I think Mike Tyson would have tried to knock out George Foreman, and he would have gassed out. George Foreman would have killed him. George Foreman was ready for the 15 rounds, and the reason he says, "Oh, I wouldn't fight Mike Tyson," because George Foreman has a character. He's a nice guy. You know what I'm saying? But if you were to talk to George Foreman when he was 20 years old, 21 years old, the guy was a monster. I think the problem that Mike Tyson had was that he would lose his stamina. And I think that's when George Foreman would just end him. I think the long jab, I think the hooks, George Foreman doesn't stop dropping those bombs. He just dropped those bombs. Muhammad Ali, if Muhammad Ali were here today, I truly believe that Muhammad Ali would say that George Foreman, would have beat Mike Tyson, in my opinion. But I just don't see it.
It sounds like everything that I've said is a contradiction in comparison, because I did name him the most overrated boxer because of what you said, Mike Tyson, by the way, that he fought plumbers.
Dude, are you literally gonna? Who would look? Prime George Foreman versus a prime Lennox Lewis.
The reason why I have him there, because in those late 80s, before the Buster Douglas, before Customato called it quit, before his wife, what was her name? Robin something, cheated on
Givens.
him with Robin Givens cheated on him with Brad Pitt. Before all that.
Yeah.
Before all that, bro. Dude, he was unbeatable. Yes, he was beating tomato cans. Absolutely. But dude, if he had Customato still alive, Teddy Atlas whispering in his ear, I honestly think that Mike Tyson would have been more prepared for those kind of boxers. That's just my thought on it. Pre-Customato, you're right, 100%. I wouldn't even want to do this fight after Customato died. Sorry. So, but we're talking about, at least for me, what I'm talking about is when he was the scariest man on earth, probably still is, that I think that he could have been, if Customato lived another 10 years, the opposite of being the most overrated. So,
wow. So you think that Mike Tyson would have beaten James Buster Douglas if Customato was around?
absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
He was, and look, that's going to go into my number two. My number two is actually Mike Tyson.
Okay.
And in doing so, man, like, that's the Mike Tyson I know that struck fear into people. Do you remember that time, bro? We would go buy. Nobody wanted to buy the pay-per-view because we knew it's like you're going to spend $50 at the time. It was $50 or $40 for a 1 minute for a 1 round fight. You remember that?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
It's just there's a lot of black eyes in Mike Tyson's career that I can't get over.
But what were they? What were his flaws before Customato died? Just that he was fighting tomato can. He fought the guys that were there. Though that the heavyweight division was weak in the late 80s. All that there was Larry Holmes.
Who did he fight that was better than the top kings that we just fucking named?
I agree with you, man.
Who did he before Customato?
Hold on. You gotta put something into perspective. I'm trying to hold back a smile here. You gotta put something into perspective, bro. It's not like he struggled with these guys. Dude. He did what he was supposed to do against these guys. Okay? So it's not like he was going 12 rounds with, I don't know, Spinks, who was the main guy at the time. He knocked him out within the first round. I mean, come on.
No.
So he was fighting the guy. He took care of business. When Customato died, he fell apart. Whether that's an excuse or not, it is what it is. The book has been written on that. But look, we got to put into perspective, man, that the guys that he did fight, he handled them. He didn't struggle with them. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm trying. Like I said, if he would have been struggling, that would have been another conversation for I wouldn't even. We'd be talking about something else.
Okay. Who is the greatest fighter that Mike Tyson has beaten? A top fighter. Who's the greatest top fighter that he's beaten? Razor Ruddock? You're talking the guy that got knocked out by Tommy Morrison? I'm not saying Tommy Morrison was a slouch, but George Foreman would have destroyed Tommy Morrison, bro.
Well, actually, George Foreman lost to Tommy Morrison.
Well, we're not talking old. We're talking,
Well, that's the same 80s. Conversation we're having. Which Mike Tyson? We're talking about the prime Mike Tyson. Not the older one.
Yeah,
we're confusing.
Yeah,
his later legacy with what he was in the beginning.
Well, let's. We're talking prime. We're talking prime.
Exactly.
I'm not talking about big George Foreman now.
I know. Neither am I. Neither am I.
Yeah. We're talking prime. Right, so I just don't see it. But anyway,
obviously, we'll go on all night. You and I have. You and I have our number ones are obviously the same. Go ahead. I'll let you have that word on that.
Yeah. No. I'll just go to my number one. My number one is Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali beat Joe Frazier. He beat George Foreman. He would have. he beat Ken Norton, he would have danced around Mike Tyson.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Tyson would have been running all over the ring trying to chase Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali would be, throwing the hooks and throwing the jabs. It would have destroyed Mike Tyson. If you think that what Lennox Lewis did or what Holyfield did, or even Buster Douglas did, it would have been way, 100 times worse. It would have been a Bud Crawford Spence type of fight if it would have been Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson in their primes, in my opinion.
I agree, and that's the separate. That's why I have Tyson higher than most people probably would, is because those other guys, Foreman, Ken Norton, besides Joe Frazier, they were kind of statues. That's what made Muhammad Ali so unique. He was such a big guy, 6'3", 225, and he had, his feet were light. He would move around. He would dance. We later figured out that like you said, Mike Tyson's early fights, they were just standing in front of him. Muhammad Ali's not going to do that. He would use his jab. It'll kind of look like a Mayweather, Money Mayweather fight, not Pretty Boy Floyd fight. And I think it would be one of those where I think that fight would resemble when he fought Lennox Lewis, Mike Tyson, where he went down. But in comparison to the other guys, Norton, Foreman, those guys would have stayed in front of him. And I think that's what Mike Tyson loved. And he could handle those heavy punches back then, at least in my opinion. But going back to Muhammad Ali, I think that's where Mike Tyson had the issues. Anybody that had flexibility, anybody that had any kind of intelligence, like Holyfield and Lennox Lewis, he always had to struggle with.
Yeah.
And look, Foreman, he was a great fighter later on, but he wasn't that. He was just a brawler. Joe Frazier, a brawler. Ken Norton, a brawler, not really using their smarts for the ring. Were they physically imposing? Absolutely. But those are the kind of fights that Mike Tyson wants. The guy that will get in a phone booth with him, no problem. Muhammad Ali was smart enough to be like, you know what? I don't even want to do rope-a-dope against Mike Tyson. I would rather go Floyd Mayweather style and use the ring for defense.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I have Muhammad Ali number one.
Yeah.
Any last word?
No. I mean, we can go all night talking about the whole yeah. But great episode, man.
Dude, this was a classic. I know I'm an idiot. That's fine. You have any final words before we
just people to like, subscribe to our channel and share, man, and leave a comment and maybe some more future fights I want us to talk about.
Yeah, guys, the support has been amazing. Keep those comments rolling. Go ahead and tell your friends to subscribe. Sam and I have big plans for this podcast, and we need your support. So the more subscribers we get, we can grow a lot more. Mm-hmm. So we'll go ahead and leave it at that. And like always, don't forget to stick and move, baby.
I am the greatest. I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick your